Before you watch this episode, let me warn you that I, the host, made a horribly embarrassing mistake. I repeatedly referred to the distillery as South Ambler when it's actually Smooth Ambler. So my apologies to the distillery, to you, the viewer, and to myself, because how embarrassing. I could have re-recorded the episode and covered up this mistake, but I think the mistakes are part of the show. And I also really like the show being about my first initial taste of the whiskey, my first initial experience. And to re-record the show would just seem too, if I started doing that, it would seem too stiff. So I didn't do that. But so take it as it is. On with the show. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Nerds Drink Whiskey. This week is the final week of me trying another non-chill filtered whiskey. This has been a series that I've been doing. This week we are doing South Ambler.
That was smooth.
Old Scout American Whiskey. This is not a bourbon because it is a blended, and there's some things in there that are just basically make it so that you can't use the bourbon name. It is, as far as I could tell, as far as I could find, it is a mixture of MGP, so whiskey from Indiana, mass produced. And a little bit of George Dickel out of Tennessee. So a little bit of Tennessee whiskey, a little bit of Indiana whiskey. But South Ambler,
It's smooth yet effervescent.
has actually been trying to transfer to being a grain to glass. They are actually switching over to, instead of being a blender, being an actual distiller. So let's see what happens. I mean, they seem to take great pride in being a blender, and they seem to be doing a great job of it. Yet, from what I hear, I have not smelled, I have not tasted, but from what I read, they have a pretty big fan base of people that are huge fans of their blending. So maybe they're going to be just as impressive as an actual distiller. Now, read on several places that it was non-chill filtered. So, but the funny thing about this is that I went to the South Ambler website.
Look at that! So smooth!
And this bottle is not on the website. So I don't know. Is this like too new to be on their website? Is it so old that maybe it's being phased out? I don't know. They seem to be really big on their contradiction. Contradiction? Is that what it's called? Let's hold on. I might have that wrong. Nope. Contradiction. Yeah, they have a big old elephant on it. Yeah, that seems to be like their flagship product right now that they're really pushing. So, but what we got this week though is their American whiskey, and it is 99 proof, but supposedly it doesn't have the mouthfeel of a 99 proof whiskey. I don't know. We'll see. I got my fancy Glencairn glass. I think one of the things we can see right off the bat is that this has a really good amber color. It's not too dark. It's not too light. I mean, this is probably about as dark as I want my whiskey, without kind of wondering what they did to make it so dark.
And besides, it was so dark in there I couldn't see.
There's been some whiskeys that kind of interact with wine that end up really super dark, and I don't like that. But yeah, so but with 99 proof, that's how the non-chill filter doesn't get cloudy. Personally, I still say some whiskey out there should, I still have yet to hear anybody tell me why no distiller or blender or whatever has come out with a using the cloudiness of the lower proof non-chill filtered whiskeys as kind of a marketing thing. I mean, be unique, stand out a little bit and say, you know, in the cloud, this is our In the Cloud series, and it's a lower proof non-chill filter. Where are the lower proof non-chill filters? Come on, somebody step out, be brave, do a unique product. Maybe we need to get along, maybe we need to make a deal with one of the local distillers and do that ourselves. I don't know. But we got to figure out what the legalities of putting out our own whiskey is, because I think it's time. Anyways, without any more further ado, let's find out what this whiskey has to offer on the nose.
Wow, right on the nose.
For it being 99 proof, I'm kind of surprised it didn't burn out my nose right off the bat. As you notice, I each time I smell it, I kind of go a little closer, and I start out really far, because you never know how strong it's going to be, you know, and you don't want to fry out your nasal passages. So you kind of do it a little slow, you know. But the only thing I sensed was very strong Cheerios. Nobody's made fun of me for saying Cheerios instead of but it just tastes like the bottom of a Cheerios box. I don't know. Which is not necessarily a bad thing with whiskey. A lot of good whiskeys have that bottom of a bottle of Cheerios smell to them. And I hate to say this, but I mean, corn. I mean, it smells like corn fresh out of the kind of that corn water. If you boil your corn and you just get that corn water, kind of that sweet but watery kind of a smell. So that, along with the bottom of a box of Cheerios, that's kind of what I'm sensing. So I don't know. A little curious about this one, because they talked a lot about malt, and I'm not a big fan of Scotch. So whether it's Highland or Speyside or especially Islay, if I have to do a Scotch, I'm going to probably grab a Highland. But I'm not a big fan of Scotches. So supposedly this drink's sort of like a Scotch. Let's see. Dark Helmet, do your thing.
Ludicrous speed.
I gotta say, it does kind of remind me a little bit of Scotch, but if you're not a fan of Scotch, don't let that detour you in any way, because this definitely has some differences. And I would say that it's more along the lines of a Highland as opposed to a Speyside, or definitely nothing like an Islay. It doesn't have that strong peat to it. And peat is usually what turns people off to Scotches. But I think it being malted, along with it being non-chill filtered, along with a few other things, make the initial taste and mouthfeel really good, way better than I expected. At $35 a bottle, that's completely fair. The part where it really fails is the finish.
Another dream that failed.
Now, the finish is not as harsh as you would expect from a 99 proof whiskey. It's actually a lot milder. It goes off a lot milder than you would expect. But it's just a crappy finish. It's a really disappointing finish. You don't really feel it go down. It just kind of sits on your tongue, and you want a finish to kind of travel down, and it just doesn't do that. It's got a strong bite to it, but it just kind of lingers on the back of your tongue, and that just kind of makes the finish not the greatest. So I think that they have some work to do. I think they could do some things to maybe make that finish a little better, but I do like the. I think this really benefits from it being non-chill filtered. That thicker, creamier viscosity really benefits it, but it could be better. Yeah, so the finish, kind of disappointing, but the taste and the mouthfeel are way better than I expected. I got to say, I'm kind of impressed.
I'm not impressed. Buffy, are you impressed?
So, but I'm curious to taste some other South Ambler product and see if maybe some of their other stuff has a better finish. So until then, I will see you next week for another episode of Nerds Drink Whiskey, where I will be doing a blind taste test with all of these non-chill filtered whiskeys and trying to see if I can tell which one is which. I think there's 4 of them this time, so that always does me in. We'll see if I can still figure it out. But this time, I think I figured out, got the mixing board out, and I think you'll actually be able to hear my judge, an executioner, also known as my wife, who sets the blind taste test up for me. But that's next week. So until then, hope your holidays are great. Stay safe, and see you next week for another episode of Nerds Drink Whiskey.